Now I know that there are people infinitely and indescribably more dangerous than I am, and I am getting better and better and better and better and more humble and more humble and more humble. And I took that lesson into my leadership at the church, and I apologize. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. If you're new with us, we drop a brand new teaching on the first Thursday of every month. And if you're not receiving the leader guide yet, let me just beg with you and plead with you, you need to get the leader guide. It's full of additional information, content, and application questions for you to cover with your team. Just go to Life.Church/leadership podcast, and we'll send you the leader guide free with each episode. Now, let me tell you what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna share with you a talk that I did a few years ago at the Global Leadership Summit. If you don't know about the Global Leadership Summit, this is a global leadership event, probably the biggest leadership event in the world. This year, the event is going to be on August the 8th and 9th, broadcast out of Chicago to over 500 sites around the US. I'll be doing the opening talk again this year. Today, I'm sharing an opening talk I did from a few years ago. If you want to grow in your leadership, this is not a paid ad. This is just because I love the event. We'll actually put a link in our leader guide that will give you a discount. You can go to globalleadership.org and find out information about the event. This talk I did talks about leaders that have it. What is it? Well, sometimes you'll meet a leader that's so gifted, you're like going, man, like she just seems to have it, or he just seems to have it. And you kind of wonder, what is it that they have? Well, it is often a reflection of what I'd call paradoxical qualities in great leaders. You'll often find that great leaders have two seemingly contradictory qualities that together can create something unusually special. I'm excited to share with you the majority of this talk, and I pray that it speaks to your leadership, and then I've got some more thoughts for you on the back side of it. Let's now look at leaders that have it. Today, we're all going to grow in our leadership. Would you look at the person sitting next to you and tell them, you gotta get better? Because everyone wins? Tell them, because everyone wins when the leader gets better. Now look at your second choice, the one you didn't choose. Look at the other person on the other side and say, you gotta get better. You gotta get better. High five three people right now. High five three people, say, get better, get better, get better, get better, get better, get better. Go ahead and have a seat if you will. If you're ready to get better, say, I'm ready. Are you ready? Ready. Big question. Have you ever met a leader and said, wow, this is a passionate visionary with like relentless focus that's incredibly value-driven and people-centered. There's something special about the leader, and you think something like, well, this leader gets it. This leader has it. Or maybe you've walked into a church or a business and there was this vibe, there was this hum, there was this sense of expectation, and you thought, well, this church has it, or this business has it. Or maybe you walked into a church or a business and you thought, I don't want to be here. The employees don't want to be here. This place is dead. There's no momentum, there's no vibe, there's no vision, there's no expectation. And maybe you thought, well, this place doesn't have it. I want to talk to you about it. Everybody say, I want it. Everybody say, I'm going to get it. I'm going to tell you the story behind it. It's very special to me. In the year 2005 or so, I lead a church, and our church was one of the first ones to expand to doing church in multiple locations, something that had never been done before. And as we were expanding, we were learning, and we would build a building that would look exactly the same in one place as it would in another. If you dropped into any one and we blindfolded you, you wouldn't know which one you were in because they were exactly the same. The worship was the same songs at each place done by equally solid worship leaders. The staff was all hired in the same system, trained in the same culture and values. The teaching was exactly the same via video. All the contributing inputs were the same, but the outcomes were incredibly different. It was bizarre. You could walk up to one, and walking into the building, you felt something, this faith and this anticipation. You could almost hear this like, something was going to happen. Then you could go 12 miles down the road to the exact same building with the exact same music, with the exact same teaching, with the same kind of staff, and you'd walk up and you wouldn't feel it, and people didn't seem to really care and want to be there. And it was so bizarre because all the contributing factors were the same, but the outcome was very different. We started to scratch our head, and we didn't really have language for it, but what we just started to say is like, well, this one has it, and this one doesn't have it. And so we started to ask ourselves, what is it and what contributes to it? And we did kind of a real in-depth organizational study. Well, in 2008, at the Global Leadership Summit, my first time ever to be there, I released a book that was called It. I'm excited today to re-release a very expanded and revised version of it called Lead Like It Matters. Better title, I must say. 7 Principles for a Church That Lasts. And I want to encourage you to get a copy of this. Even if you're not a church leader, I learn from business leaders all the time. Leadership principles are leadership principles. Buy a bunch, buy 100 for your team. You say, you just want to sell your book? Yes, I worked hard on it, but my family is honored to donate 100% of every dollar from every book sold everywhere to start new churches. So I say it with integrity. I believe this will help you. I want to help you lead like it matters. That raises the question, what is it? And the answer is, I'm not really sure. Beautiful. You wrote a book on it and you don't know. I'm not buying that one, okay? Let me tell you what it's not. It is not the result of a model. In other words, your business can't copy someone else's model and get it. Your church can't copy a program from a great church and get it. It's not the result of a program. What we do know is that there are things that you can do to lead toward it, and there are also things that you can do to kill it. We found that one leader doesn't necessarily bring it, but the wrong leaders can kill it. We could say that it happens. But sadly, more often, it doesn't happen. What is it? There's bad news and good news. What do you want first? Somebody shout out. You want the bad news first, good news first? Shout it out. Shout out. Bad news. Get the bad news out of the way. The bad news is, just because you don't have it doesn't mean you can't get it. The good news, that's not the bad. The bad news is, just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to keep it. The good news is, if you don't have it, you actually can get it. And what I want to do is I want to try to help you get it. And in the book, there are 7 factors of organizations that have it. The book was written from a total organizational perspective. The book was done and settled, and I was sitting down with 5 leaders at my desk, and they said, hey, what qualities do the leaders have in common that have it? Like, how dumb am I? I wrote a whole book from an organizational perspective and never sat down to look at the qualities of the leaders that have it. And so this little core group, we decided to do just a study and started looking at our leaders, those special ones that had that something special. And then we looked at top leaders in the field, and what we found was not shocking on one hand, and on the other hand, it was mind-blowing. What we discovered is, of every leader that has it, that something special that you trust, you believe in, you want to follow, you're excited to be in the room with them. The leaders that had it, they have very extreme qualities, which is no surprise whatsoever. I talk to people all the time like, we just want to hire well-rounded leaders. I don't at all. I don't want well-rounded people who are good at a lot of things. I want extremes. I want those who are incredibly talented in very specific, very narrow, almost weird areas. Why? Because greatness is found in the extremes. If you are a little bit weird, go ahead and step into it. Be extremely weird. If you obsess about something, if you're like really passionate about something, if you're really, really good at something, press into it, because greatness is found in the extremes. We were not shocked by that. We saw these people with very extreme qualities. What was shocking is we looked at Pastor Bobby Grunwald, my closest friend. He's the founder of the YouVersion Bible app. We looked at him, and somebody said, yeah, Bobby, he has this extreme optimism, this visionary. He sees everything's possible, but generally when there's someone like that, they don't have their feet on the ground. Bobby is this extreme visionary, and yet he's brutally realistic. It's like these were opposing extremes. We looked at Jerry Hurley, one of my closest friends who's been with me for almost 25 years, and he is a world-class culture builder, and when he talks to you, you always know where you stand. You never wonder. He is brutally direct, but he loves you so much you feel loved even when he's firing you in the name of making the organization better. He is direct as can be, and yet he's kind, and he's empathetic, and he's compassionate. And it was so confusing because I was like, these people, they have these, like, really one extreme over here, and then there's one other extreme over here, and they were like polar opposites. It was bothering me. It's like, is this like contradiction? Is this like hypocrisy? And then, in case you don't know, I'm a pastor of a church, and so there is one that I talk about more than anyone else, and his name is Jesus, and it doesn't matter your spiritual background, you're welcome here, but I follow Jesus, and I looked at Jesus and I thought, he's like that. Think about it. He is like extreme, like fully God. He's all God, and he's fully man. He's both. He is roar, he's the lion, and he's the lamb. Right? He is the Alpha. He's first, and he's the Omega. He's last. His teachings were extreme. If you want to find your life, you have to lose your life. If you want to be great leaders, you have to serve. And it hit me. The leaders that have it often have extremes that appear to be contradictory, but when working together, they're explosive in leadership impact. So I came up with a little bit of a title or a little definition for a leadership paradox. I made this up, so if you don't like it, you can just email me at craig.thisisnotareal.email.com. What is a leadership paradox? I call it this. It's a contradictory leadership qualities. It's contradictory leadership qualities that together create a synergy of undeniable leadership impact. If you want to grow in your leadership impact, I would say grow in your extremes, and let's grow in some contradictory or almost opposing extremes. We did a study, this little group of us, we looked at a ton of different leaders, and we came up with 14 different leadership paradoxes. And I thought to myself, you will not pay attention that long. So I narrowed it down to 10, taught it to my staff, revised it, and today I'll narrow it down a little more and give you the top ones. Then I'm going to choose the most important 3, I believe, for our culture and our leaders, and we're going to dive into that. Let me show you the leadership paradoxes we discovered. One is, those that have it, they are both on one extreme, incredibly confident, they're secure, there's a boldness, and at the same time, they're humble, that they care about people. It's not all about them. We found that they are incredibly driven, they work hard, they drive for results, and at the same time, they're also very, very healthy. They're not burning people out, and they actually have a life. We found also that they're focused. They know what they're called to do, they know what they're not called to do, but when the time is right, they become flexible. They're both. They're ruthlessly focused and they're intentionally flexible. We found, like Bobby, they believe anything is possible. They're incredibly optimistic, but they're not so pie in the sky optimistic that they're not feet on the ground realistic. They'll confront the brutal facts to quote Collins. They are, Jerry Hurley, direct. They're always communicative and very, very clear. And they care about people. They are empathetic, they're loving, they genuinely want you to grow. They're kind. They are also empowering, and they trust, and they believe in people. And you're not going to like this word, but I will prove to you later, not today, but in another day, why it's true. They're also controlling, and they are. And you don't like it, but they are. They're going to empower, but there are some things, it's got to be done this way if you're going to be here, and they're both. They trust you, and there are times when they will annoy you because they control you. Another paradox, they are urgent. Get it done, get it done, get it done. Drive. They push for results. But at the very same time, they're wise enough to play the long game. They're urgent and they're patient. This last one is not true for all. None of these are true for all. This one is especially true for founding leaders like me, especially founding leaders. They are annoyingly, ridiculously frugal. Don't spend money on there, don't buy donuts. Then they'll blow your mind with this multi-million-dollar risk. They're abundant. They're both at the same time these contradictory, opposing qualities that together create a synergy of leadership impact. Today, what I want to do is I want to pick the top three. I want to talk to you about the top three, and your assignment, wherever you're watching from today, is to choose the one that best applies to you. The one. At the end of our talk, I'm going to ask you to stand up for your one. So pay attention and choose your one. I also have a free podcast called the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. I will cover all of the rest of those on the podcast. One is out now, one is coming up. We'll go over all of those on the podcast just to give you a holistic view today. We're going to look at three. You're likely going to have one that's dominant, and you're going to have one to develop, and maybe you want them to grow both together. Number one, leaders that have it are both confident and humble. The leaders that have it, they're both. They're bold and they're humble. Because when you think about it, what kind of leader do you want to follow? You're attracted to both confidence and humility. One without the other is not effective. The problem is, for some of us leaders, we have too much confidence. We have what we might call misplaced confidence. In other words, like I might say, how good are you? And you're like, I'm good, baby, I'm good. How good are you? I'm so good. Well, how good are you? I'm like a 9.5. And I've been around the block maybe a few times more than you, and I may look at you and say, exactly, you are a 9.5, but you think the scale goes from 1 to 10. You're a 9.5 on the scale of 1 to 100. You don't know what you don't know. You got misplaced confidence. You need some humility. At the same time, there are others of you, and let me just tell you right now, there are many of you, and I want you to hear this, that you are strong, you are talented, you are capable, you are chosen, you are called, and you are still hesitant. Because you don't know the greatness that is in you. You need to grow and step into your confidence. And what's amazing is the leaders that have it, they're generally growing in both of these at the same time. The very same time that we're becoming more confident, we're also in the moment becoming more humble. How does that work? I want to introduce to you my very best friend, my bride of 31 years, mother of my 6 children, grandmother of my 5 grandchildren, and 50 or so coming, the way my kids are reproducing. Amy is with us today, and I love you with all of my heart. You're my best friend. So, just so you know, she's not just Amy, but she's Gigi, and I'm Pops. We got a lot of grandkids. So, we were out of town, we were at a pool, and we were enjoying ourselves. Like, nobody knows us, and we're at a pool. And this young girl had been drinking and came up to us, and she went, wow, you guys look amazing. Like, look at you both of you, like, you're amazing. Confidence. You look incredible. Like, wow. I stuck my stomach in. I put my arm around her, like, you look amazing. Confidence. She said, I told my boyfriend, I want to look just like you when I get really old. At the same time, confidence and humility. how do you, leaders, grow at the same time in your confidence and your humility? Let me tell you how. I want to encourage you to push yourself to the point of what I call leadership discomfort. Push yourself to the place where you're not really confident you have to do what it takes, but as you grow in your confidence, you're also humble as a student. You're gonna push yourself to the point of leadership discomfort, because a growing leader is in a constant place of discomfort. We're gonna put ourselves in a place where you feel stressed. Well, I'm not a very good speaker. Speak! What's gonna happen is you're gonna get better and you're gonna grow in your humility. Odd story, I felt stuck. I was losing confidence, and at the same time, I was probably losing humility because I'm the leadership guy. I went to a performance psychologist to help me, and he said to grow in your humility and to grow in your confidence, take on something new and unrelated to leadership. Very interesting. He said, for you, I want it to be something high adrenaline and something that feels dangerous. Because for me, that would disconnect my mind from always thinking about the church. So I took up two things about 2 years ago and have been progressing. One is jujitsu. If you watch MMA, that's what happens when people drop to the ground. The other thing is I'm getting my private pilot's license, and we'll test within this month. If you look at that plane and it makes you nervous, the good news is it's not as old as it looked. It's only 48 years old, which is way younger than me, so it's totally safe, I think, right? How many have seen the movie Top Gun? Okay, that's a Top Gun starter kit. That's what that is. That's a Top Gun starter kit. So, in jiu-jitsu, if you look at me, you might say the same thing I thought. Craig, you look like you're in decent shape. You're probably as strong or stronger than most people that you would roll with. You played college sports, you're a pretty good athlete. You'll probably be just fine. Oh, no, I'm not. Little guys wrapped me up and made me see parts of my body I've never seen without a mirror before. It's the, and at the very same time, now I know that there are people infinitely and indescribably more dangerous than I am, and I am getting better and better and better and better and more humble and more humble and more humble. And I took that lesson into my leadership at the church, and I apologized to our team in humility, because I had been overly confident and I had significantly misdiagnosed the current state of our organization. And I'll tell you briefly what I did. I told them, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I have a lot of leadership experience in leading in good times or in slow times or in momentum. I know how to do that. I have been led through significant crisis. In crisis, you conserve cash, you act quickly, decisively, communicate frequently. I know how to do that. As the COVID season started to lessen, I went back to what I call the normal leadership mindset. And what I had misdiagnosed completely. There's nothing normal about this season. Nothing normal. Maybe since like World War II, there's never been a time in history where we as leaders have had to lead out of a 2-year global crisis. This is not normal times, this isn't good times, this isn't bad times, this isn't leading crisis, this is leading out of crisis. And it's an entirely different mindset. And so, in humility, Mr. Leadership Podcast Guy told the staff, I missed it completely. And when I saw what I missed, my humility increased and my confidence increased, and I'm leading like it matters. To grow in your confidence and to grow in your humility, let me just beg you, push yourself to the point of discomfort. And at the same time, you're going to discover what you don't know, humility, and you're going to get better at what you do know, confidence. And that's the kind of leader that people want to follow. Number one, leaders that have it, they're both confident and they're humble. Number two, the leaders that have it, they're both driven and they're healthy. They're both. They're both. If you're healthy, like you're like healthy and laid back and don't like to work and not driven, you're never going to get it, right? But if you're driven and you're not healthy, you're never going to keep it. Here's what I've discovered, and this is what's true for many of you right now. Many of you are completely overwhelmed. You feel stressed, you feel burned out, you feel like there's too much to handle. And many people are misdiagnosing what's going on. I want to help you diagnose what's going on in your own leadership, and I want to tell you right now, you have to fix it. There's nobody coming to rescue you. When I was in a low point, I was waiting for somebody to say, there he's struggling. There's no life jacket, you got to swim. I looked around at the leaders in our organization, and we came up with three different standards of where people are falling, and I want to show you, and you might see yourself in one of these if you want to be driven and healthy. There's number one is some of you, you're doing too much. Like you're literally working too much. You're doing too many things. You may be outside of your gifts. You need to get help. You need to reprioritize. You need to cut. You need to delegate. If you're too controlling, the reason you're too controlling is number one, you're too proud, or number two, you're not growing in your leadership. The best leaders learn to delegate. Some of you, you're doing too much, and if that's where you are, you have to own it and say, yes, I'm doing too much. A second place you might find yourself is you're not doing too much, but you're not recovering well. You're actually not working too hard, but you're still exhausted, you're still discouraged, you still feel like you're burning out. If I ask you, how are you, you'd say, I'm tired. If you're where I'm from, you'd say, I'm tired. How you doing? I'm tired. How you? I'm tired. Tired. Working hard. For many of you, you are not tired, you're depleted. And there's a difference. If you're tired, you could take a nap. If you're depleted, you don't need a nap, you don't need a vacation, you need to refill. Your problem is you're not disconnecting, you're not unplugging, you're obsessing about things that you can't control. You might be in the wrong role or such. You're not managing your time well, you're not eating healthy, you're not exercising, you're not getting enough sleep. You're not doing too much, but you're not recovering well. There's a third group of you, and I'll say this directly and kindly, is you need to raise your tolerance for work and stress. 40 hours is not too much. 50 hours is probably going to take. You're building your own, sometimes a lot more than that, and you need to grow into it. My second daughter, Mandy, when she took a ministry role at the church, she was almost crying, Dad is so much, I can't do it all, I can't do it. I said, Mandy, I promise you, 3 months from now, you're going to look at this week and say it's an easy week. 2 weeks later, she called me back, Dad, you're right, I'm killing it. What happened? She grew in her tolerance for work and for stress. Bottom line is this, and I'm not going to lie to you. Those who have it, the leaders that have it, that's something special, they tend to bring a bit more. There's intensity. They work a lot, but not at the expense of family. They're both hard workers and they're healthy. If you want to have it, you need to be confident and humble. You need to be driven and healthy. Some of you, you've already got your one. You're so driven, but you're not healthy. If that's you, you have to fix it. It's on you. Your people need it. Your organization needs it. Those you're going to influence needs it. You have to be both. The third thing that leaders that have it, I've discovered is this, and this is so important. Leaders that have it, they're both focused and they're flexible. So important. They're focused and they're flexible. Why does this matter? If we aren't ruthlessly focused, we'll never get it. And if we aren't flexible, we won't keep it. I'll tell you a story behind the focus. Years ago in our church, we broke away from the model of almost every church, at least in my country. When growing churches were doing more and more, we did less and less, fewer and fewer things. We committed in the early 2000s to only do 5 things. To do weekend worship experiences, to do kids ministry, to do student ministry, to do small groups, and to do missions. That's all we did. You say, like, what about the other things that are in the Bible, like marriage retreats and conferences and men's ministry, no, women's ministry, Sunday school, vacation Bible school, no, concerts, Christmas pageants where the camel poops on the stage, as it goes by. Youth camps where the teenagers play truth or dare in the back of the van and make out for the first time, all for the glory of God on the way to youth camp. None of this at all. And we were ruthlessly, unapologetically, passionately focused, and perhaps became the fastest growing church in the U.S. And then at some point we recognized maybe we had taken this a little bit far. Like literally, we had taken it too far. And so we loosened our focus and became more flexible. Rightly so. What happened is we had some of our smaller churches that were not allowed to do the things that helped smaller churches reach more people and grow. It was kind of a one-size-fits-all model when actually our model had different sizes. So we rightly became more flexible, and we added some good things, and then we added some more good things, and we added some more good things, and we woke up in the year 2022, and I started to say, have we added too many good things? Maybe this is a problem. We were focused, and then we were flexible, and suddenly we found ourselves in a place that maybe we were doing too much. What is one of the greatest enemies to your success? I would say the greatest enemy of success is not a lack of opportunities, but a lack of focus. Some of you, your conference is done right now. That's what you need. That's it, like that's your moment. It's not a lack of what you can do. It's like you got to determine what you should do. It's focus, it's focus, it's focus. So what we're doing right now is I'm guiding our whole team. Next week when I'm with our staff, 2 different layers of staff, the whole staff, we're going through a very strategic process. I talked about this in one of the podcasts. If you want to dive into more detailed information, you can just jot down episode number 79. That's where we talk in detail about this. We call it the 4 tiers of effectiveness. And I want to show those to you, and I want you to consider applying them to your organizational leadership. There are 4 tiers of effectiveness, and everything you do is going to fall somewhere in these tiers. What we're trying to do is we're asking ourselves, is what we're doing, is our use of resources bringing about the best return? If not, let's change it. Tier number 1 is something that's absolutely mission critical. Like for us, we have to do church, we have to preach, we have to care for people. It's tier 1. If we don't do this, the boat doesn't float. Tier 2 would be something that's very important and strategic. In other words, this really matters to us organizationally. It's very, very important to us, but it's not critical. If we didn't do it, we could still be a nonprofit, we could still be a great school, we could still be a business. It's important, but it's not critical. Tier 3 is something that's meaningful, but not essential. We could do this, we might do this, but nothing significant would be lost if we didn't do it. Many of you, what you're going to find is oftentimes the vast majority of what you've absorbed into your culture is tier 3. It makes a difference, but not a big one. It gets a return, but the return may not be worth the investment. Tier 4, many of us get stuck here. When you look at your schedule may be filled up with tier 4 priorities. That's something that's externally initiated and often a lower priority. If you look at your schedule and almost everything else is something that someone else asked you to do, you're living in the tier 4 and you never change the world in tier 4. It's externally initiated. It may be occasionally important, but not often. It's, hey, will you do my fundraiser? Will you pitch this product? Will you speak at my place? One time someone asked me to do a funeral for their dog. I considered it. I wouldn't for a cat, but for a dog maybe. But it was an external priority. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to work through with your team and define tier 1, we do them. Tier 2 will likely do most of them, but if there's 800 things in your tier 2, those aren't tier 2. Use your brain. Tier 3, we're going to be incredibly strategic, very, very selective. Tier 4, if we're really, really focused, is going to be a rare yes. What we're going to do is we're going to be focused on what really matters, and then we're going to be flexible when we have to change. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. What is the essence of great leadership? In many ways, the essence of great leadership is choosing what not to do. We're focused. We're in the zone. We know what we're called to do. Even Jesus, when he came, he said, this is not why I'm here. I did not come to save them. I came to save these people. I didn't come to bring this up. I'm not doing this. Some of you, the most spiritual thing you can do is not add something to your to-do list, but create a to-don't list. We're focused. And we're flexible to change as it matters. My question is this: do you have it? If you find yourself in too many tier 3 or tier 4 things, I want to give you an organizational question to take back to your team that could be a game changer. This is what we're asking. The question is this: if you started over today, there's some project, you don't know if you should do it, would you take on this project? If the answer is no, then why are you doing it? We don't change the world by doing good things. We focus on doing the best things. Speaking to leaders, I'm wondering, do you have it? When people look at you, do they say, she has integrity, she has passion, he has a vision, there's a heart for people, there's a love for me, I want to follow it. Leaders that have it, they have confidence, they have humility, they have flexibility, they also have focus. Do you have it? If you don't, I'm going to ask you this, like, do you want it? In 2008, when I wrote the book, like, I had it. You might say I was full of it. A lot of people said I was full of it. Like I had it. And it's hard to admit, but somewhere along the way, like, I lost it. Like, I lost it. And I'll speak from a pastoral standpoint, and I know many of you would have very, very different standpoints, but as a pastor, I found that I was praying more publicly than I was privately. I found somehow I started to care more about what people thought about me than what God thought about me. I was performing for the approval of people rather than preaching from the approval of God. The phrase, and again, forgive me for those of you that this may be out of your spiritual context, but for me, the phrase that I felt like God showed me is that I'd become a full-time pastor and a part-time follower of Christ. Full-time pastor, part-time follower. I had it, and I lost it. And so, like I said, I got help. It's not weakness to get help. It's wisdom. It's wisdom. It's wisdom. And my counselor got me in things that disconnected my mind, helped me to grow in confidence and humility. And I read a book I wrote in 2008 and needed to rewrite and go, oh my gosh, we were focused then and we're not. We're not now. We've lost it. We've got to tighten it up. And then I was like way too driven, and I was driving myself into the ground and doing it all for great intentions and believing I was being smart. And I learned that I can have it for a while, but I will lose it if I don't take care of my body, my mind, my mental health, and I change the rhythms. And it means more to me than I can tell you that in both real confidence and deep and profound humility, I have that passion today. When I wake up, I think about doing what I'm uniquely created to do, and I want you to have that. What you do matters. It matters so much. I want you to feel it. I want you to step into it. Do you have it? If you do, you want to keep it. If you don't, you want to get it. Step into it. Let's go. Be extreme. Don't let someone talk you into average. Press into the extremes. Be weird. Be all in. I would invite you to do what I call stepping across the third line. Line number 1 is, hey, I'm a leader, and I'm in this enough to benefit from it. Give me my title, give me my position, give me my 401k, and let me tell people what to do. Line number 1. Line number 2, hey, I'm a leader, and I'll give some, I'll help some people, I'll try to make the world better. Line number 3, you know it when you're over it, and you know it when you're not. My calling is to lead and love people. I exist to make this world a better place. It is not about me. I do this for someone else's glory. I exist to empower other leaders to push the organization forward, to make a difference in the world. Step across the third line and give your whole heart to it. Find it, live it, feel it, be it, lead it. So which one is yours? We're going to get better. We're going to get better. Which is your area? I want to put the 3 up on the screen, and I want you to pick yours, and I'm going to ask you to stand for a moment. Can we put the 3 up on the screen? Our 3 big areas. confident and humble, driven and healthy, focused and flexible. For those of you who would say it's in the first category, I need to grow in my confidence or my humility, would you stand to your feet right now? Stand to your feet if that's you. All of our locations, stand to your feet, stand to your feet. Don't be too humble that you can stand to your feet. Get some confidence. Get your bottom out of that chair. Second one, you may be too driven and you're not healthy. You're imbalanced. Stay standing. Everybody stay. Second one, you're too driven or you're not healthy enough, you're not driven enough, stand to your feet. Those of you that recognize you're not really focused or you're too flexible, would you stand to your feet? I hope everyone in the room is standing to your feet. Which one? Dive into one. Get better in one. Focus on one. When you look at most parts of the world, let me tell you, what are you going to see, leaders? You're going to see political division. You're going to see poverty. You're going to see mental health issues. You're going to see moral decline. You're going to see violence and the breakdown of families. And as a leader, you may step up and say, someone needs to do something about this. Hey, it might as well be you. What are you? You're a leader. You have influence. Step into it. Sell out to the mission. Step across the third line. Fall in love with it. Let it consume you. I want to talk to you about one of the most powerful leadership tools that is strategic, impactful, deeply relational. Getting it right can transform your leadership. Getting it wrong is guaranteed to limit your leadership. Today, we're talking about one of the most underrated leadership skills. We're going to talk about how to ask better questions, because the right question at the right time can change everything. Today, this is part one of a two-part leadership teaching, and we're talking about how to ask better questions. What do we know about most leaders? Most leaders are obsessed with having the right answers, right? But we have to acknowledge that you'll never get the right answers without asking the right questions. What's interesting is that I'm really honored to have done leadership Q&As at different places around the world. And every time we do a Q&A, people ask some version of about the same 12 or 15 questions. I mean, over and over and over and over again, they're going to ask, tell me about your schedule. How do you delegate? How do you stay mentally healthy? How do you develop a great culture? How do you increase the vision? How do you appropriately allocate resources? How do you stay motivated, scale up? How do you handle criticism? How do you deal with conflict? How do you not grow crazy leading for years and years? And we get a version of those over and over and over again. In all my years of doing Q&As, I don't remember anyone ever asking, how do you ask better leadership questions? How do you ask questions to get really the deep and the best answers? And people should ask that because it's so important. And if you wonder, like, why should we focus on leadership questions? I'll tell you why. Because your leadership potential will never exceed the quality of the questions that you ask. If you want stronger relationships, better outcomes, and to make a bigger impact, ask better questions. The quality of the questions that you ask determine the quality of the information that you get. In many ways, the potential impact of your leadership is based on the quality of the questions that you ask. So what we're going to do is we're going to get very practical. We're going to talk about the why, the how, and the what. In other words, like, why? Why do you want to ask more questions? Like, why do you want to shut your face and listen more than you talk? Because you need to do that, and so do I. And then we're going to talk about how do you do it? Like, how do you ask questions to get the most honest, helpful answers? Because different types of questions are going to create different types of answers. And then what specifically do you want to know? If you want to make a bigger difference in growing your leadership, what type of information do you want to know from your team to help you grow in your impact? So let's talk with the why. And this is relatively obvious, but why do you want to ask questions? And we're going to talk about three reasons. One is very obvious. Two, not as obvious to some leaders. Three reasons. You want to ask questions, number one, to gain knowledge and understanding. That's pretty obvious. We want to know more. Number two, you want to ask questions to develop deeper and stronger relationships. Number three, you want to ask questions to help others grow and gain insight. Let's talk about them. The first one is relatively obvious. You're going to ask questions because you need to know information. You want to figure out what's going on. Now, you've probably heard it said, you don't know what you don't know. People say that all the time. I'm going to add a little bit to it and tell you this. You don't know way more than you know you don't know. I'm not even sure I said that right, but
there's so much more about leadership and about people and about what's going on in your organization that you don't even know that you don't even know. And this idea is closely related to the Dunning-Kruger effect. If you've never studied the Dunning-Kruger effect, please do. We've created a short summary in the Leader Guide, and so if you get the Leader Guide, we'll put some information in there. But essentially, it's a cognitive bias, and you see it on two extremes. People with low competence tend to overestimate their ability. In other words, you got someone that's not really good at something, you say, how good are you? And they say, like, I'm a 9 at this. They think they're really good. And you're like, yeah, you're a 9, but the scale goes from 1 to 100 because they really don't know what they don't know. And then on the other side, there's people that are highly competent and they underestimate their expertise. They're so good at things that it's just intuitive to them and they really have no idea how special their gifts are. I want to focus on the first end, and that is this, that you don't know what you don't know. And as a leader, I promise you that you're going to have to work really, really hard and then harder and then even harder to discover what you don't know. And in most cases, whenever you're really confident, the more confident that you are that you're right, the more you're vulnerable to being wrong. And this was really like in the first season of my leadership. I just remember in my 20s and early 30s thinking I knew a lot, and I was pretty sure I was right. And I had no idea what I didn't know. And I had to work really, really hard to learn where I was blind, what was going on that I didn't understand. And really, there were like levels of leadership understanding that I hadn't even entered the room yet. And so if you're like most of us, and if you're like me, when you don't know something, you're often hesitant to ask because I'll tell you me, like, I don't want to look dumb. I'm kind of insecure, so I don't want to appear weak. And if you're anything like that, when you don't know something, you may not ask. And so I want to remind you, this is really, really important. Asking questions isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. Asking questions doesn't mean you're dumb, it means you're smart. And not only when you ask questions, not only will you grow, but you actually model humility and teachability to your team. So if you're the boss and you're in there asking questions, you're like, well, if she can ask questions, then I can as well. And forgive me for the simplicity about what I'm about to say, but this is so, so, so important. And mark this down. Your ability to grow reflects your willingness to learn. What you don't ask, you won't know, and what you don't know, you can't grow. Let me say it again. Your ability to grow reflects your willingness to learn. When you don't ask, you won't know, and what you don't know, you can't grow. So, why do you ask questions? Well, number one, to gain knowledge and understanding. Pretty obvious. Number two, some people don't think about this, but you ask questions to develop deeper and stronger relationships. In other words, if you want to connect deeply with the people that you serve with, you want to ask intentional questions, not just organizational questions, but also personal questions. Why? Because whenever people feel heard, they feel valued. And you want to show that you care about them. And chances are, almost every one of you listening or watching right now, you've probably worked for someone that didn't seem to care about you, right? And why is it that you didn't think that they cared? Well, likely they didn't ask anything. And if they did, they probably didn't seem to listen, they didn't seem to care. And you know, it's really hard to give your best to someone that doesn't care about you. And so, if you don't ask your team members questions, and if you don't listen to what they say, essentially what you're doing is you're communicating to your team that their insights, their ideas, their opinions don't really matter to you. And what you're doing unintentionally is you're training them not to tell you the truth. And instead, what you're doing is you're training them to tell you what they think you want to hear. And the moment you do that, that is the beginning of the end. You can't go anywhere with people that won't be honest with you and tell you the truth and tell you the things that you need to hear. I like what Andy Stanley says. He says, leaders who don't listen will eventually be surrounded by people who have nothing to say. Boom. Drop the mic on that, right? You want to ask questions to show that you care and to learn about people. So number one, you ask questions to gain knowledge and understanding. Two, you ask questions to develop deeper and more meaningful relationships. The third thing, a lot of leaders don't think about this, but you also ask questions to help others grow and gain insight, to help others grow and to get better. And this is an underutilized tool. There are times when you're asking questions not just to find out information, but you're asking questions to help others discover information or get answers for themselves. You're asking to help them see something new and to help them learn and grow. If you've ever been to a good counselor, counselors specialize in this technique. A good counselor knows that if he or she tells you a truth, it doesn't change much. What a good counselor wants to do is they want to guide you to discover the truth yourself. And my counselor would do this and it would drive me crazy. I'd be like, just cut to the chase, just tell me. Like, no, yeah, I need you to discover it. And so you don't want to tell them how to change their thinking. You don't want to tell them how to change their approach. What you want to do is you want to ask questions and help them see, oh, okay, this is a better way to think, or this is a better way to approach that. Now, when you're using questions to coach someone, you're guiding them with questions. Remember, the best leaders don't just ask questions to get answers. They ask questions to get people thinking. You're not just using it to say, hey, I want information from you, but you're also asking to get people thinking and to discover information for themselves. Now, as a side note, I want to talk to you parents. This is a great tool in parenting. And one of the things I learned raising 6 kids that are now grown is not always wise to ask your kids like, hey, what are you struggling with? What problems are you facing? When a parent asks a kid that, the kid often gets defensive. What I found is a better question is to say, hey, tell me how your friends are doing. What are your friends going through? And I've noticed this is like our kids don't mind talking about their friends. They just don't want to talk about themselves. And so they'll often talk about their friends' struggles. And when they do, mom or dad, they say, oh, you know, my buddy's dealing with porn, or he's dealing with drugs, or he's depressed, or he's suicidal, whatever. Don't freak out. Don't lecture your kid. Don't say you're not allowed to hang out with that person anymore. Listen with no judgment and also with compassion. And you say back to your kid, like, you know, that's got to be difficult. That's got to be painful. You want to keep your kid talking. You want to keep the lines of communication open. And then once they tell you something, a really good question to ask is, well, what would you suggest that your friend does? What would you suggest they do? And what you're doing is you're helping train your child to both be honest and to think critically about a situation they may face one day and they may be facing now. So you're just asking open-ended questions, you're getting the conversation going, and then you're teaching your child to think. Now, that was a parenting side note. Back to your team. This is really valuable to do with your team members. Whenever you're asking questions, one of the things you want to recognize you're doing is you're shifting the focus. You as a leader, so many things are about you. Like you walk in the room, you're the most important person in the room, you're going to do the talking. When you ask a question, you shift the focus from you to them. And this matters so much. Then the next level is the right questions eventually shifts the focus from you to them, and then it shifts the focus from them to us. What you're doing is you're asking questions to bring everybody on the same side of the table, and then together you're going like, okay, we're solving problems together, we're seizing opportunities together, and so you're asking questions that bring this unifying force of agreed vision and strategy, and this can be a game changer organizationally. Now, a word of caution, and I promise you this is a risk. The higher you rise in leadership, in other words, you get promoted or you do it longer, or you're the GOAT, you're the one everybody listens to, whatever, the higher you rise in leadership, the harder you have to work to ask sincere, others-focused questions. You have to work at it because people are going to defer to you and you're going to start thinking you know more and you don't. And first of all, like if you get, you're more important than everybody thinks you are, you start to think you know more than you do. And it's stupid, but you don't know. You're always a student. Secondly, if you're not careful, you'll be asking questions, and the people you're asking to, they'll actually feel like you're attacking them or you're giving orders. These are two risks. You're asking questions to your team members and they feel like, oh, I'm on the defense. Why is she asking me these questions? Or you come in asking questions and it feels like orders. Give you kind of an example. What you want to do is, if you're going to be asking a lot of questions, you want to work to create a climate of trust and safety. What I'll do if I've got a lot of questions for somebody, I'll typically say something like this, like, hey, I'm going to ask you some questions, and the reason is because you're really smart. I'm going to ask you questions because I truly value your insight, and I love the way you think. A lot of people just see problems, but like you don't just see problems, you see solutions. And so if it's okay with you, would you spend a few minutes and help teach me what you see that I'm not seeing? So what I did there in something like that is I actually mean it, and I'm trying to value the person, but I'm creating a climate where like going, oh yeah, he's not in here to, catch me. He's in here because he values me. And if you don't do this and you come in firing questions, a lot of people, they just are going to feel defensive. Like, he's asking me all these questions, I must be in trouble. Or this is another category. You'll ask a sincere question, and you know what they're going to hear? They don't hear a question, they hear a command. And this is really, really common. True story. Bobby Grunwald is a close friend of mine, worked with me for 25 years. He's the creator of the YouVersion Bible app. There was a time when he was over new construction, so all the buildings that we'd be building. He walked into a new auditorium, and they were painting it, and he came in and he said, hey, why are you guys using this color? I thought we were going to try a different color. And he was just curious. He wasn't even sure. He's like, I think we were going to try a different one. I wasn't sure. And so he was just asking a question. You know what happened? The team repainted the whole auditorium with a different color just because he asked a question. And so you have to be really, really careful and just understand how other people feel on the other side of your questions. And on another level, you're going to have to work hard just to create a climate where people feel safe to tell you the truth. For example, this is a true story. I asked a team member one time, do you think we should do this? And he said, no, definitely not. And he was so confident that it surprised me because I thought, I'm not sure it's really clear. Maybe we shouldn't do it, but it's just not clear to me. And since he was so confident, I thought, obviously he knows something I don't know. So I'm like, well, great, man. Tell me why we shouldn't do it. And the next thing you know, he flipped his whole thing. He said, actually, I think we should do it. Well, which one is it? You just told me no with confidence. Now you're telling me yes. And the problem is, and it's not his fault, but he wanted to please me. And your team, they're going to want to please you, and they're going to want you to like them. And so you have to work really, really hard to say, hey, tell me the truth. Like, what do you really, really think? And you've got to create a climate where they feel safe, where they feel confident, where they can speak freely. So to get good and helpful information, you want to ask good and helpful questions. And remember, I'm going to say it again, the quality of the questions you ask will determine the quality of the information that you get. Warning. And please hear me on this. You got to be super careful when you're asking questions that you do not fish for what you want to hear. I do this, you're likely to do this. It's so easy to ask leading questions. And so what you want to do is you don't ask questions to confirm your biases. You ask questions to determine what's true and helpful. Don't ask leading questions. And we do this all the time. You come in like going, hey, why do you think this event wasn't very good? Well, you set the tone and you're helping tell them you don't like the event. Or like you'll say something like, you don't think she's doing a very good job, do you? What's your employee going to say? They're going to agree with you. Or you'll say like, our pitch was amazing, wasn't it? This is a dumb question. And so I want to say it again. When you're asking questions, you're not searching for information to confirm your biases. You're asking open-ended questions. You're absorbing information. You have to walk in and assume you know nothing. And anytime I walk in with a pretty strong opinion, I kind of have this posture like, prove it wrong. Like if you can prove it wrong, I want you to prove it wrong. I think I may know, but I could definitely be wrong, so I'm really, really open to it. So let's get practical. How do you ask open-ended questions? And this is super important. Watch how you ask questions and see what word you're using to lead your question. I'm going to tell you right now, start with what or how instead of did or do. Anytime you're asking a question, look at where you start. Start with what or how instead of did or do. So you're not going to go up to someone and say, do you like this plan? What are their choices? Yes or no, conversation over. Instead, you say something like, what? Hey, what do you think about this plan? Or what can we do to improve? You're asking an open-ended question and you give them plenty of room to give you honest feedback. Or you're not going to say like, did you understand the instructions? That's yes or no. Instead, you could say like, hey, how clear were the instructions? Or what questions do you have about the instructions? And you're getting their detailed thoughts, their opinions, not one word answers. And then once they answer, stay curious. This is ridiculously important. They start talking, they're not done yet, but you tend to think, you've heard everything. Often the most valuable thing, they're holding back. And so you say these three things over and over again. Tell me more. Why? What else? You ask a question. Hey, tell me more about that. Oh, okay, great. Help me understand why you believe that. Or, hey, what else are you not telling me? Tell me more. Why? What else? Say those things over and over and again. Train yourself. When they speak one time, you think you've got everything, and just remind yourself, they got way more in them. They haven't told you yet. They're often holding back. They're kind of seeing, is it safe? They might have an idea they haven't told you. So, hey, tell me more about this. Why? What else? Because the best and most helpful information is rarely ever on the surface, right? You drill for oil, you dig for gold, and so with people, you got to do the same thing. You got to dig for wisdom. And so when you're doing this, you want to listen really carefully. You want to listen to what you hear. You also want to listen for what you don't hear. Super important. You want to listen to what they say. You also want to listen to what they don't say. You want to watch for what you see, and you also want to watch for what you don't see. And this is important because sometimes what you don't hear, what they don't say, and what you don't see is equally or more important than what you do hear, what they do say, and what you do see. I'll give you some examples. We have 45 different Life.Church locations. And so on Sundays, often I'll visit a campus and just meet people in the lobby. That's all we do. We just talk to people who are serving and attending. And I'll always say something like, hey, tell me your spiritual story. Tell me how you became a part of the church. And then I'll listen for what I hear and what I don't hear. And I listen for language. Sometimes people will say like, oh, I love your church. And when I hear that, that's not exactly what I want to hear. Your is a distancing word. What I want to hear is, oh, I love our church. And that sounds like I'm being nitpicky, and I am. But the difference between someone who loves my church or someone who loves our church is massive in telling me just how bought in they are to the mission. Sometimes I'll visit with, maybe 200 people, and I'll hear a lot about the local campus pastor. My pastor baptized me and helped me find a life group, and pastor did my marriage, and he changed my life, whatever. Other times, like I can literally go all Sunday morning, talk to a couple hundred people, and no one mentions the campus pastor. And that doesn't happen often, but when it does, that's not a good sign. So we're looking for what we hear. Also, we're watching for what we don't hear. And when you're in a conversation, trust your instincts. Because so often you're going to be in a conversation and you're going to think, I sense there's something more. I sense there's something you're not telling me. And so just go with it. If you feel that, say hey, it feels like you want to tell me more. And then just be quiet and listen. And you would be surprised what all you can find out when you take the time, not just to listen to the first thing, but to dig a little bit deeper. Now, I want to shift gears and tell you this. And this is, again, I know I keep saying it, but these are game-changing principles, I promise you this. Not only do you learn by asking questions, but you also learn by observing what kind of questions other people ask you. I'll give you several examples. You're doing a job interview. At the end of the interview, you're usually going to say, do you have any questions for us? Don't say that. That's a dumb question for you to ask. What I always say, I don't ever say, do you have any questions for us? I always say, hey, I'm sure you got a lot of questions, fire away. Why do I do that? Because the questions they ask really determine a lot about how I feel about them as a candidate. What you want to do is you want to hear their questions, not just, do you have any questions? That's like yes or no, or they ask you one question. Hey, I know you got a lot of questions to ask away. I'm trying to set the tone where I want to hear 5, 6, 7, 8 questions from you. And the reason why I want to hear their questions, because what people ask about determines what people value. What they ask about is a reflection of what's important to them. If they ask, well, how many hours do you expect me to work around here? Or tell me all about the benefits, or, when can I be promoted? It's one of the worst questions, but they're kind of close, right? And if that's all they ask about, that might be an indication this is not the best candidate. I'll give you another example. Whenever I visit Life.Church locations, if you can imagine, with 45 of them and doing this for almost 30 years, I've done hundreds of visits. 3 decades. And so when I walk into a place, because I've done it so many times, there are patterns that just shout at me. It's like when I see it, I see it. When I don't see it, it should be there. When they say it, it's like my head's about to explode with information based on the patterns that I've seen. And so a lot of times we'll do dinner with the staff and I let them ask questions. And there are questions I want to hear, And there are questions that aren't the best ones because questions reveal priorities and values. People ask about what they care about. And so whenever staff says something like, okay, so you spent Sunday here, what's one thing we can do to improve? Or what did you notice that we might miss? Okay, those are growth questions, and those are telling me the staff's postured to learn. Sometimes they'll say like, how did we compare to other campuses? Or did you notice anything wrong? Again, it's not a huge thing, but they're focused on comparison and validation rather than transformation. It doesn't matter how you compare, and you're not looking for something wrong, you're looking for something that's right and to grow. And so I'll sometimes coach people on how to ask questions, and gently but firmly. I do a quarterly new staff member meeting where all of our new staff members come in, and a younger 23-year-old asks, hey, what do we need to do to keep from burning out? And I didn't like her question. I didn't tell her that, but I tried to coach her. And I said, hey, I'm really glad you asked that because I want you to be healthy. I want you to be strong. But what you did is you started with a negative assumption, like that we're going to burn out. And so that actually frames your expectations and you're afraid of burning out. So a better way to ask it would be like, hey, what habits or spiritual disciplines helps you stay energized and focused? That's a question that brings about the right answers for health rather than a defensive posture. Or I said, you could have asked like, hey, Craig, what fuels your spiritual passion that's kept you driven for 3 decades? And so those questions actually get the information that you're looking for instead of being defensive. And again, I know these are nitpicky things, but it's the small tweaks that often bring about the big results because the quality of your questions will impact the quality of the answers that you get. Now, I've gone long today, longer than I normally do. So I hope you have a longer workout. I'm going to wrap this up in just a moment, but I want to tell you about what we're going to cover in the next episode because we got a lot of important stuff to cover. In part 2, we're going to dive into the specific questions that separate the best leaders from the rest of the leaders. And I promise you, we're going to get stupid practical, and I'm going to show you very specifically what to ask and how to ask to get the best information to care about your team because they matter and to drive the best results. Also, last month I just released a new book, The Benefit of Doubt, how confronting your deepest questions can lead to a richer faith. This is a Christ-centered book that deals with spiritual doubts, and we want to give away some of those books. We couldn't figure out like what to have you type in the comment section, like I want Craig's book, give me your book. And so we asked Grayson, the audio engineer, shout out Grayson, loud, shout, loud. He is the intern audio engineer, and he said have him type in I like free books. So if you'd like to win one of 5 free books, type in the comment section at YouTube or Spotify, wherever you can, I like free books, and we will see if you win a free book. So what's your assignment now? Your assignment is this: be curious, be engaged, be open, be prayerful. When you ask questions, you start to get information. I like to sit on it. And I like to start to connect the dots. I heard this, and I heard this, and then I like to pray. I like to listen to God. And I tell you right now, like, trust your gut because you're learning, you're absorbing, you're internalizing, and you're processing. And you know how if you ever use AI, AI is learning you. Well, here's what's really cool is you're not AI. You don't have artificial intelligence, but you have God-given wisdom, and that's a great thing. And so what do? You're asking questions, you're absorbing, you're processing, and you're listening beyond the noise. And you're thinking beyond the obvious, and you're praying beyond the possible. And when you ask better questions, guess what? You get better insights. And then you move beyond the surface level conversations and you uncover what truly matters to people and what they're seeing. And you stop settling for quick answers and you're pursuing deeper wisdom. And you're not asking questions to use the people that serve with you, but you're asking questions to know them and to love them and to value them. And you don't just react to what's seen or what you hear, but you discern what's unseen or unspoken. Because, and again, I'm a pastor, so I got to say it, we serve a God who can do exceedingly and abundantly more than all you can ask, think, or imagine, according to his power that is at work within you. So there's more in you. And I want to encourage you, as a leader, if you're starting out, if you're a seasoned leader, wherever you are, ask great questions. Ask the right questions. Why? Because the right questions at the right time will change everything. Thanks for investing half an hour with me today. And I believe you're getting better. I'm getting better. We're all getting better. And that's good news because everyone learns.